All right, we are live. So if you loves are popping in to join us, just give us 1 sec while we set up all the magic, aka all the tech stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Okay. You ready, loves?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Melanated Muses. This is a consecrated space of the three the three humans you see in front of you, and this is something that we've been called to for a really long time. And depending on whose community and collective you might be joining us from, I'm Nika Carly, and
Hmm. My name is Palomi Rani Chef. I'm so happy to be with all of you. It's bringing you to.
And I'm Azaria Menezes, and I'm so excited to be starting this journey with you all and sharing from all of our hearts.
too. Yeah. And we kind of dropped in and are like, okay, so what's this first episode, right? Like, what's it need to be about? And what's not even like what should it be about, but what does it need to be about? Like, how is this space being called to open through us? And today we were really like, okay, it's kind of the space to drop into why this matters. Like, why us as a trio of medicinas, of muses, that this is the time for us to really use our voices and our bodies of work to evoke the medicine that's moving through us. And so, yeah, like I know I'm chit chatting, but like anything that is coming through for either of you around like why this, why now, why us, or shall we begin with like a little bit? I never talk, I always just like, let's just drop straight into the magic, but I know that other people like to like kind of introduce themselves and who they are. So if that feels yummy for you, let's totally do that. Yeah, totally, whatever's.
I know that I'm here because this is the most important conversation and activation um, in my life, and also for this particularly raw and potent moment. And I'm also here in honor of all of the melanated bodies and beings that have suffered or been hurt in some way for this exact identification and what it means to reclaim and re empower and remember our story so that we can be so empowered and safe in this reality through the lens of the pigmentation as well as the lineage, the culture that we come from. Also here because Nika and Azaria, you two are the powerful, inspiring muses, activators, sisters, and soulmates for me. So thank you also for this together.
Beautiful.
Zara, did you want to share anything?
Um, I'm here to just honor and support the space of creating conversations. I think a lot of these conversations have happened within the melanated space for such a long time. And I love the idea, especially now, how powerful it is to just bring it up into the space as a melanated person, to support these conversations and to be able to claim and sit in the space as empowered, melanated people, and to just be able to amplify these conversations, amplify these voices, and just take up space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm here because it's raw. This raw, messy, primordial muck that we've been called to play in together, and to allow that space where the muse is riding us, right? And we're able to be the portal for that, to be birthed into the world in such a way that people are able to hear, and people are able to see, and people are able to come back into their own remembrance, and the traditions and the ancestry that we hold combined and alchemized is such medicine for me, and just to be in space with both of you. And since the day that we all met, it's just been the most profound elixir. It's been everything. Like, it's been earthy and fiery and etheric, and everything that thrums in my bones and my womb and pussy, that are like, this is the time, and this is, and the why, right? Like that. It's become why, like, why could we ever not do this? Like, what could possibly be the reason for us to not take this stand and to draw this line in the sand for who we are and the medicine that's working through us? And it feels as if we're just at this precipice, and we're there together, and we've been called to take that leap, and to really look at and work with the systemic trauma that our bodies hold, and how that not only impacts our capacity to show up in such a way as this, and to talk about the atrocities and the joys and the medicine that us melanated folks experience, but to also call our white allies of the culture, call them to the fucking table, like, bring them in as well, so that there really can be this liberation for all. Like, this is that time. This is that time. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, Nika.
Thank you both. Yeah.
Mm.
And it feels like Palomi's in the medicine, so maybe there might be a little something, something here.
When I really feel the intensity of the war that's been going on in our own bodies, simply by nature of who we are, individually and collectively, it was an incredible relief, to be honest, to feel this outer emanation of some protest, some war, some activation, some waking up in the world since the murder of George Floyd. And it almost felt like that relief, to go back to what I want to say, because something in my inner reality was finally matched by the pain, and at least the availability of the information of the pain and the injustice in such an impactful way, that people are finally showing an expression of that in our 3D reality, for something that I feel we've all been carrying in our bodies with this internal warfare from the day we've been born.
Absolutely. And it's one of those, it's like those moments when soul has already gone to the next evolution, and us in physical body and actions and even the message and the way that we are being the messenger hasn't quite caught up to that next evolution, and it gets really sticky, and there's this dissonance in our bodies and in the way that, because we're already called to that next level, and it feels like there's been this external, almost as if just at least a part of the veil has been shifted, so that externally it's even more, it's, I was going to say it's like bioavailability, but it's like even more available in the physical realm, for this work to be brought out in such a way that, I mean, yes, that way body peeps are going to be able to hear it. Some are obviously up in arms at the revolution at hand, but also in such a way that Black, Indigenous women of color, people of color, that we are able to drop in even deeper and look at the internalized racism, the anti-Blackness that we hold, that has been passed down through the system of racism and oppression and colonization, and how that affects our ability, or our perceived ability, and our capacity of our nervous system to even step into this work. Like, the three of us have done a lot of work to be able to hold this work. And it takes that, because we're also holding so much trauma from not only our lived experiences, the collective at present, but also ancestrally what's been happening and what has happened. And we're holding that. And so it feels like it's one of those times where things have come back into a space of resonance for those of us who are being called in this moment to use our voices, to use our platforms, to use our messages for that next level of evolution for us as a people, and then for the world at large.
Yeah, I do believe that, as you said, this is that almost like pivotal moment in time where we as a collective have this opportunity to really make a huge change in how we bring all of the awareness in all of it, as well as just being able to create and hold this container for healing to happen, as well as um, even people of color, just waking up to their trauma and the healing that they still have to do and haven't even realized. I think that's a huge moment, and a huge kind of like aha, when you are able to really see that reflected back to you in other people as well, like that shared experience. Because a lot of us don't even realize like the magnitude that this has, the impact that is kind of affected by it, and the heaviness that that can bring as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a feeling of bringing in, like being this transmission for shifting in that heavy density, like the heavy density of what's happening right now. And the three of us, and I know many of our soul peeps that we know and play in the realms with, but we are like, we're able to work with the heavy density. We've done a lot of our own playing in that, and I say playing, but I mean, it's not to say it's either good nor bad. It simply is, right? Like, it's a lot of work, and it's fucking hard and crunchy, and also it is. And I know for the three of us, just that we're willing to be in that muck, and to play in those heavier densities, and to really be able to transmute them as messengers, healers, guides, all of these things on our paths. And it feels like this is this is one of those spaces where we've come together and felt that calling to share kind of like some of the behind the scenes of, it's like behind the soul. It's like the new BTS, behind the soul of working with, right? Of working with those densities, and especially around something that is so, it's scary for a lot of people. It's scary in the sense that like us having these, like I see full on activists, you know, have been doing this for seeming like their entire lives, but like Sean King, like Ibram Kendi, and like they get death threats like almost every day. They have groups on Facebook organizing to go and lynch them. Like these are the things that we hold in our bodies as bodies. Resma Menakem talked like we're bodies of culture, right? Like so us as bodies of culture, bodies of color, we hold all of that pain and all of those atrocities, and it can be really hard to then not feel the fear, or to feel the fear and still have the capacity to go out and use your voice around these matters. And it's feeling like that's one of the reasons, aside from just all of the amazing shenanigans and like love that we've been brought together, but it feels like us together, we are able to transmute that density into something that it permeates. It's able to actually land.
To me, this conversation, as well as this activation of Melanated Muses, is actually the intersection of who we are in our 5-dimensional, tri-human, energetic convergence. And also everywhere we've been and everywhere that we're going, and all of the medicine that we carry with us, whether it's me in my nationality and in my blood and my lineage, or being Indian, or whether it's having done deep work in Tantra and energy medicine. It's the convergence of all of these transmissions that we've worked so deeply through, so that we can have these melanated bodies of power to hold the overload of processing and activation and information that's now coming through in such a loud, explicit way. And it's almost like, I'm so glad we've arrived here, all of us. And also individually, I'm so glad I've been training and preparing and shamanically orienting to work with everything that is coming through so strongly. And honestly, it has been, whether it's been in a whisper or a dream. Like now our voices are held by the ancestors so deeply, so fully from us all. That moment that we're in is so publicly important, exciting, and also emotional and painful in so many ways. I know we've been talking about for years now.
Yeah.
Intense the last few months have been.
I feel like this is almost definitely the right time for this to happen, because we've been talking about this, as Palomi said, for such a long time, and planning when the right moment was. And for this to happen now, and for us to really have this opportunity to be heard, held, and also be able to hold space for our listeners and the collective, people of color, is really, really, really deep. Yeah.
There are two words. I know I've said this many times, that I don't know if it was like the first time that we all like connected in Palm Springs, like the first day, but Palomi shared like these two words, and I don't even think it was like in one sentence. It was just like in our musings together. but it was attunement and sensitization, like the sensitizing. And these are things that, I mean, at least the three of us, like that we talk about, that we use, like they're in our kind of normal vocabulary in daily life. But there was a medicine when you spoke them into space with the three of us, that it was almost as if the resonance of the words, right? Language in and of itself, but the resonance that came through when you spoke that into the space with the three of us, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, and you can feel the fabric of the world just, it shifts a bit. Like there is something, and it was just, it was so, just all the things without the words. And it feels like this is the attunement and that sensitizing and that resensitizing over and over again, even when it's hard, even when it's painful, allowing ourselves to continuously come back into that space within, into that remembrance on all layers and levels, so that we can be the portal, so that we can be this living transmission of the lineages. And the three of us have studied so much and gone through so many initiations and trainings and all of that. And I mean, like, yes, of course, the things that like people like to talk about, like certifications and all of that, but I mean, like, life. like like we've lived the initiations, we've lived the transmissions and the teachings and the trainings, and it feels like this is the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, oh, I couldn't hear you.
We've also lived in our Black and brown bodies. And
Yes.
that in itself is more than anything. It's just the direct transmission, embodied experiential reality and truth of the way that we have to walk through the world, the way that we must walk through the world, whether that's a positive, difficult, negative, objectified thing.
Yeah.
But please continue.
This is like how I love that this is how our communion always is. It's always like this, right? Like this boom, boom, boom. Like, you know, it just kind of, the message just kind of flows through all three rather than one, right? It's always flowing through all of us. I had this a young thunder cat, so little cutie, like a young guy, and he commented on something that I posted. It's like, wow, it sounds like you've had such, like, I'm sorry you've had such, you know, like a hard life. And it's like, no, like that's not it, right? Like, my life has been amazing. Yes, there's been a lot of hard shit, and there's been a lot of racism, and there's racism every day. Like, whenever we go out into the world, there is something, like, there's something, and it's a way that we are able to navigate that and still thrive and still be in this melanated bliss body and still be the transmission. And I think that I know that's one of the things that draws us as, I need a word for like three, but that not like triad, but like there's like something that happens that's drawn us into this three ship that allows our own melanated experiences to be amplified and the medicine to be amplified. It's like that, what is it like when you're making decoctions and stuff, where you like that, the thing that you add that like, oh, it's like the thing that makes stuff better. It's like the ingredient that you add, and it's like now everything like comes together. Yeah, I feel like that's the medicine.
It's the sacred trinity. It's the triad. It's the tierce. It's the trio. We've been transmitting that as our collective body for over 2 years.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. Well, I know that we're kind of like at some level of intention. I want to keep these episodes. I mean, sometimes it's not to say we won't ever go for like an hour, who knows? But we wanted to keep them to a space that was digestible, and in a way that you can really integrate ongoing. And so I'd love to know, is there anything that feels like in the next, anything that we'd like to really explore for our last kind of like 5-10 minutes here, unless it feels like we need to go longer, of course. But is there anything that's coming through?
I really want to get curious about identity,
Yes.
how we are projected identity upon us, how we identify ourselves, how we relinquish identity, how we are free from the constructs and the shackles of identity,
Yes.
and why identification is such a sensitive point of reconciling so much of the colonization
Yes.
and tragedy and
Yes.
disrespect and misownership that we've been struggling and suffering.
Yes.
And here, Azaria, Mika, your individual experiences, expressions, or reflections of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this could be like our entire second episode. Like if we, I mean, like to drop into it here, but I feel like this could be like, and I feel like this is a thread that will continue, this identity thread, like it will continue throughout everything. But yeah, Azaria, did you want to pop in?
Yeah, I mean, identity is a huge part of it all, and I there's so much to say. I feel like even as a whole another second episode, that would be amazing. But in terms of identity, how we carry ourselves within our bodies as a melanated person. So maybe even bridging into what it means to be melanated to each of us. Like, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? What does it mean to walk as a melanated person um, in the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this something so specific about melanated identity, right? And then we break that down by culture and subculture and people group and nationality and borders and all of these things that we've had encoded into us for so long. And like to bring Resma, if we were going to give homework, definitely say like Resma Menakem's book My Grandmother's Hands, because it really drops us into a body-based approach. But he talks about like with traumatic retention, where it's trauma that's been there and it's been normalized and encoded for so long that it begins to look like culture. And then that becomes what, like, we then internalize that identity as what we are supposed to be as a melanated person or as someone from a specific culture or subculture who has this type of languaging or walks this way or shows up in messages this way or all of or makes money this way. And that we get to really dissect these things and dismantle and unravel and come back into what is actually true for us as people of culture, yes, but us as individuals. And also that like our identity gets to be fluid as well. It does not have to be stagnant based in a colonized and systemic approach to who we are supposed to be to keep the system of racism and oppression going.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love when you said that it can be fluid. I think even especially for those who, come from two cultures, right?
Right.
Flow back and forth between that, um, in identity. And also recognizing when we are flowing in and out of those, cultures in
Yeah.
certain spaces. Like, how do we carry ourselves around in different groups? So it's interesting to explore that as well.
Mm. Yeah. And also the uprooting of identity, right? That is a result of slavery and genocide and colonizations and the stealing of land and the stealing of bodies. This uprootedness that happens in melanated bodies as a result of that, and that loss generationally, ancestrally, that loss of the roots, and how that then shows up in our identity and the way that we think we need to identify, either in order to hold on to something that has been stolen or as a way to fit into what we have been taught is the way that we're supposed to be now, right? Like, well, now this is how you're supposed to show up, regard like whatever your roots were. Yeah. And there's this, yeah, this like stolen roots. Yeah. And identity. Mm. Yeah. Mm.
When I hear you say stolen,
Mm. Hmm.
it's like how much more can be taken from us. And yet, why do we still feel and know that we still have so much?
Yeah.
But reconciling that frequency of observing in the world how colonized everything that was once sacred or that was once our own has become is the beginning of thousands of conversations, right?
Mm.
But also thousands of activational changes that are meaningful. Like what we now see at Standing Rock is so powerful. And also, why did it take so long? Why are we just
Yes.
I don't even understand.
Yes.
Um, and this beautiful thing that only happened a few days ago in Oklahoma, where Oklahoma, as its state, decided to give back ownership to the indigenous for the part of that state that was once theirs. And it's just like, oh wow, why did it take so long?
Mm.
And are these choices being activated through the lens of judgment or the lens of fear or the lens of responsibility or guilt or shame? Where is it coming from? All of that can be okay if real change is occurring, and it's just interesting to inquire more deeply.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I'm here stolen, and I'm feeling the vibration in my body of how infuriating and frustrating and
Yes.
painful
Yes.
has
Yeah.
been and we feel day to day.
Yeah. And even that it's like that the government has decided to give back part of the state, but all of the land. It's like the entire land, like give all the land back, right? Like it's not even like that part of the state was theirs, the entire land, like all land.
The
And
complete, the incomplete reconciliation,
yes, yes,
unacceptable.
yes. And then how that frequency in our body. Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's gonna be a potent second episode.
Mm.
Yeah. Does this feel complete for us today, or is there anything else that feels like it needs to be spoken into space here?
Mm.
My prayer is that we are met in our voices, My prayer is that we are received in the alternative pace and rhythm and exploration of this conversation than what is conventionally or mediagenically accepted. My prayer is that there is a safety and a stability and a groundedness in our experience of sharing our tender realities that can support and evoke the same safety and ability to dream the possibility on the other side of what we know as colonization of our bodies, our culture, our everything. And my prayer is that we can continue to be safe, held, and witnessed enough.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, both.
Beautiful.
Yes. Thank you both. All right, loves. Well, make sure that you are subscribed and turn on all the notifications, click the bell, all that jazz. And we'll be back at some point. We don't know when, but soon enough. So make sure you are ready, and you can follow us obviously here and on Instagram at Melanated Muses. And we'll see you all soon. Yeah. Yay.
Thank you all. Thanks
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
tuning in.